In this episode we finish our Sky Aluminum factory and get our hands on 675 aluminum casings, 200 Alclad Aluminum Sheets, as well as 400 batteries. Yo, hello everyone! Welcome back to Pronto Play and Project Nuclear Mayhem in Satisfactory. In this project we are building a factory network where we take all the available uranium in the game, produce the maximum possible amount of uranium fuel rods and have the nuclear waste 100% recycled in the end. The goal of the project is to consistently provide 252 nuclear power plants with fuel rods and have a total power output of at least 630,000 megawatts. In the last episode we started to build an aluminum factory with an output target of 675 aluminum casings, 200 Alclad sheets and 400 batteries per minute. The casings and the sheets will be necessary for the production and the batteries will be improving our quality of life. And because the necessary resources here are on such difficult terrain, we lifted everything up and started to build a factory on platforms in the sky. Now I do have an idea how the optics are gonna be in the end, but let's first focus on the production process and make sure the fabrication works exactly as we want to. So far we have taken 1800 bauxite and 540 water to produce 2160 alumina solution per minute. Also 1200 crude oil is getting processed into 800 plastic and 400 heavy oil residue. While the plastic will sit here until further notice, the residue is directly getting converted into 1200 Petroleum Coke. We then take 720 of this and mix it with the alumina solution to produce 3600 aluminum scrap. And the scrap being produced on this platform gets transported over here and directly smelted into 1800 aluminum ingots per minute. All numbers are of course per minute, and when the production setup is complete I will share a complete overview of the process with you. Alright, with that out of the way, let's continue the build. Now to finally get our hands on the first final products, we want to split the alloy ingot output in half, which is basically already the case conveniently, and have 900 ingots each going further. One half for casings and the other for Alclad sheets. But in order to make these, we now go back to our first platform we built and that is sitting over there idle since. We now need our copper ingots. The 1440 copper ingots over here also have to be split, but into 3 groups. We need 450 copper ingots for the targeted amount of alu casings, 300 for the Alclad sheets, and 600 actually have to be processed further into wire for the batteries later. Now this only adds up to 1350, which is our actual need for this build, but we just brought the 1440 here in case, so we add another 30 to each group in order to avoid shortages on the belts, just because, why not? So this group over here is already 480 copper ingots per minute, which is perfect with the 30 excesses one. And here we have to split 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the way so that we have 240 on this side, another 90 on this, so this will be the 300 plus extra 30 for the Alclad sheets. These 5 here have to be merged then on this group, which gives us the last 630. That looks like this. Now we have the disconnecting over here, and that is the grouping already taken care of. Okay, some slight adjustments because previously this one was the group for the casings and this one for the sheets. So we had to bring them over there somehow, and in the middle, right, intercepting was the copper for the wire, which has to go somewhere around here to be first processed into wire before actually meeting with the aluminum parts for battery production. So now we have the 2 groups over here. This one should be the one for the casings and this one for the Alclad sheets. So these can go together, meeting the aluminum ingots over there, and this one can go somewhere else, maybe around in this direction, to first be processed into wire, and then everything can be put together for the final production step. And the idea is to go somewhere in this direction here for one big final platform where the final assembly and also the distribution and the logistics takes place. I have some general ideas, but nothing too specific. We have to go with the flow and see how things turn out in the end. So now let's first do some more platforms for the aluminum assembly. And the next platform for the aluminum assembly will be placed between this copper platform and the aluminum ingot platform over there. Okay, this will be our aluminum assembly platform. I just went with some different shapes now. No idea how to place the assemblies diagonally over here, but we will see. Okay, in total we need 36 assemblers over here, just 6 for the Alu Casings and 30 for the Alclad Sheets, so I think the size will be very sufficient. And yeah, let me work something out on how to actually group the assemblers over here. Alright, I'm happy with the 6 assemblers for the aluminum casings, but over here for the Alclad Sheets I need way more space, so I have to extend this half over here. Okay, a little bit of misjudgment from my side, because now the platform is actually way bigger, but now we have 30 assemblies over here in groups of 3 for the aluminum Alclad Sheets, and right behind that we have 2 groups of 3 assemblies for our aluminum casings. And now all the logistics is set up. The alu ingots get transported on belts of 450 to the sheet assembly and then feed in manifold on each side, and on 6 belts of 150 to the casing assembly, where they feed into single assemblers individually. The copper comes from the other side, divided into the 2 groups that we organized earlier, and just go manifold into the respective assembly groups. And once again, we have some containers on the end of the line so that we can check if everything works as intended. Hopefully we get alu casings in the center container with Alclad sheets on both sides. But before actually testing the assembly, I installed some awesome things over here at the plastic refinement, as well as for the Petroleum Coke that is currently unused. Since either component of the network is backlogging very fast, we barely provide any Petroleum Coke to our alu scrap refineries over there. And in order to avoid that and test the system properly in its current state, we need these at the moment. Of course, the awesome things will be gone again soon, once we go further with our production network. So let's just connect these for now. Feed the plastic in, and same for this one here. And now the system should run steady very soon, produce some heavy oil residue again, and feed more petroleum coke to our scrap refinement. So I'll give the production some time again to settle and to fill up the belts again, and then we go back to our assembly and see if we get our casings and sheets. Alright, very good. Conveyor belts are starting to fill up. So I think now it's actually time to start up the second input resource for our casings and sheets, which is the copper. So without any further delay, flip the switch and let's wait for the ore to actually show up here. And there it comes. Nice. Almost at the same time on all 3 belts, running into the smelters. And very soon we will have the ingots running to our assembly lines. Let's give it some time again to settle, to produce some ingots beforehand, fill up the conveyor belts, and then we will go over there to flip the switch on our assemblies. And in the meantime I will prepare the next platform, which will convert some of the copper ingots into wire. That actually was way faster than expected. The assemblies for the casings are already completely backed up, and the assemblies for the Alclad sheets soon will be as well. So I think it's time to flip the power switch over here and give the assemblies a go. All green lights is a very good sign. And there are already the first Alclad sheets getting merged on the insides. And here we also have our first casings. Now the right side isn't starting. Let me check why that is. No copper. Did I actually mess up the connection somewhere? Oh. My bad. Let me connect these really quick. And the left side should turn green very soon. Alright, there it is already. Alright, with that, a huge part of our production network here in the sky is completed, but we still have to further progress to get our hands on some batteries and then to ship everything to the destination that we needed to. So let's continue. Alright, so in order to produce the 1200 wire we need 40 constructors, and since we have 30 excess copper ingots we will add an additional 2. And once again I took an old blueprint, in this case the 8x steel pipes constructor blueprint, and readjusted it to our current needs so that we have now 8 constructors converting copper ingots into wire. And the idea is to actually take the blueprint similar to our aluminum ingots and then move it to the side like this, snap the second one right next to it, and then actually add a second level on top, similar as with the aluminum ingots, and then a third level where the fifth blueprint goes in the dead center so that we have a symmetrical build, and then on the other side we can work out the logistics for the wire output. So let me do this really quick. Something like this. Now just 2 additional constructors are missing on the other side, but other than that, only hooking up conveyor belts and the power to the power lines, connecting everything in between the blueprints, and then the wire is settled already. Alright, everything prepared, and for once I also took care of a little bit of cosmetics. So let's flip the next switch and get our hands on 1200 wire per minute. And it shouldn't take long until the belts fill up with all the wire. These are already split into 2 conveyor belts of 600, since we have to use more than one regarding the 1200 wire per minute. And for now they also will feed into these 2 storage containers, but they will be necessary very soon, because now we basically have everything prepared that we need for the final step of the build. With the wire also taken care of, we almost have everything set up for this build. We have the casings necessary for the heatsinks, we have Alclad sheets, wire and plastic for the batteries, as well as some extra alu casings, Alclad sheets and Petroleum Coke that we can use as we like. The next step that will bring us closer to the finish line is bringing all of this together and mixing the final input that is required for 400 batteries per minute, and then set up some logistics hub to transport everything away from here to its destination. Oh, and we must not forget about sulfur, the last resource that we haven't dealt with yet, but is of course as crucial for the batteries as everything else. So since we have a very big gap with plenty of space in the sky right above the sulfur node, as well as in between all the platforms at the same time, I think this will be the spot for our final platform. So let me build up a huge square for now, and then we see how we deal with this further. And here it is. Very big, and I have no idea how the setup will be in the end, but after all the other platforms I am very sure that we will need this much space. For example, we still need 14 manufacturers for the batteries and also handling all the logistics. So let's get started. Alright, now for the layout of the last platform, let's go step by step and start with the 14 manufacturers. And since the necessary input for the batteries is coming from over here, the wire over there, plastic on the other side, and somewhere over here is the sulfur, let's actually stay on this side here for the manufacturers, and then we see how much additional space we need for the logistics and how much we can cut back the platform in the end. But first the manufacturers. So I will place somewhere around here 14 manufacturers now. So here we have our 14 manufacturers in place, and to be honest I find it a bit underwhelming. I expected them to take more space on the platform, but I rather have too much space than not enough. So yeah, most likely we will cut back the platform later on, but first let's finish the production line. And let's start with the wire. The idea is that we take 2 Mark V belts over here, place them somewhere around here. And then I prepared a little ramp that goes basically right next to the manufacturers so that we have these 2 lines and can drag them all the way down so that we lead the wire to our manufacturers. And I think I have to get some more conveyor belts or Alclad sheets for the conveyor belts, but I will catch you again once these are finished. Damn, I just noticed that I forgot the 2 additional constructors and now I have no idea where to place them. Okay, not the most beautiful solution, but I put now 2 constructors in front of the additional 8 on the very top, because this way the access also splits up evenly onto the both conveyor belts that we have when merging the output. And with that taken care of, the conveyor belts for the wire are also dragged all the way down to the manufacturers. What we do now is we place conveyor lifts on all the manufacturers, and then we add some splitters, feed the wire inside, and then we will lead the wire all the way to all the manufacturers over here and copy this procedure on the other side as well. let me take care of this really quick. And now we have the wire taken care of, with lifts on each manufacturer, providing 90 wire, with the only exception being the last two ones, which are actually a little bit underclocked to 20 batteries per minute, so they only take 60 wire. Next up, we take care of the Alclad sheets. And they actually will be fed in from over here, with the lifts coming below. And then we will place some splitters on each side. I haven't decided yet how to bring the second conveyor belt to the other side, but we will work something out, I'm sure. Okay, conveyor belts for the Alclad sheets are worked out. And now all that's left to do is connect the containers with the lifts, so that the Alclad sheets actually can go down. Let's upgrade these. That were initially just for showcasing, and now the Alclad sheets go below. So after getting transported down below here, the Alclad sheets go on either side of the manufacturing lines, and one line gets lifted above the manufacturers and goes on the other one. And at the start on each conveyor belt we implemented a smart splitter where the overflow will be separated from the conveyor belt, because each line of 7 manufacturers will only require 350 Alclad sheets, but each conveyor belt will transport 450, so the excess 200 in total will be separated by using smart splitters, and we can use them how we wish. Now that the wire and the Alclad sheet is taken care of, we now have to deal with the plastic from over here and bring up the sulfur from over there. And since it's the easiest way, I actually want to feed in both the inputs from underneath. So we will feed the conveyor belts underneath the platform and then go with floor holes to bring them into the manufacturers. So let's actually start with placing the conveyor floor holes, so that we know, once we are working underneath, where the lifts have to go and where the conveyor belts eventually have to reach. So let me take care of this really quick. And now we actually have some points of reference for our conveyor belts while working underneath the platform. And very quickly, the logistics for the sulfur is already laid out. It's a simple Mark V belt that eventually splits and gets fed into every single manufacturer. And if we now delete the two awesome sinks for the plastic and connect them with the conveyor belts underneath the platform, we have taken care of every input, and now it looks something like this. All that's left to do is to hook the manufacturers up to power. Then we bring the power over to the platform, somewhere around here. And if we merge all the battery outputs together to one belt, the production setup for our aluminum factory should be completed now. Damn, this was actually so much work, and I can't wait. I want to see if it works now, so let's flip the switch on the main platform and see if everything works and we get our hands on some batteries. Everything's running in apart from the sulfur, and because we just connected the sulfur mine to power, this should actually take a little bit, but you can see it already gets the sulfur out of the ground. So we should see some green lights very, very soon. And there it goes. First green lights on the manufacturers. And there are our first batteries. Damn, it's such a relief to see that everything is finally coming together. The belt is very, very much full. 400 batteries per minute getting extracted at max rate. And of course, once again, the system has to settle a little bit to run on a steady basis. But man, is this great that we finally completed at least the production aspect of this factory. Of course, there's still a little bit to do about cosmetics, but to be honest, for the pre-production platforms, I'm quite happy about the different shapes and how it looks all together. I just want to do a little bit of cosmetics to this main platform. But before we actually take care of the cosmetics around here, I want to settle the logistics hub first and place some drone ports for transporting all the parts that were produced over here to another location, so that we see how big this platform actually needs to be, and then we can cut back all excess space and then work out some cosmetics for this one. Okay, we will go into the details of the further logistics very soon, but for the moment it's just important that we need 4 drone ports in order to deal with all the output of this factory. Let's actually see how we can set up these. They're extremely big. And on this side here we have the excess Alclad sheets as well as the batteries. So maybe let's just start somewhere around here. Align it with the foundations. Then leave a little bit of room in between. 2 foundations, another 2. And this one, I think I will snap directly onto the other drone port, because we will actually need 2 drone ports for the aluminum casings. But as just mentioned, we will go into details for that very soon. Alright, logistics is prepared. Allow me to explain. First of all, we have the container with the batteries that goes over here. And we will feed this into this drone port here, so that the batteries will be transported to what will eventually be always the autosave. Alright, where was I? The batteries will be fed into this drone port and then will be transported to our future headquarters. We will build in the future a headquarter where we have a main storage and where everything will come together for the nuclear power plants, but also some of the batteries will be necessary to power the drone ports here itself. So this is why I set up a splitter over here, and some of the batteries will go over there to go into the battery import of the respective drone ports. Next up, we have the excess Alclad sheets that will be separated via these smart splitters. And the first one will run over here and get merged with the second one, go over here. This one is a visual bug, by the way, because yeah, there are lots of Alclad sheets on this one, it's just not visible. And the Alclad sheets that are excess will go into this drone port, and then we can decide later where to transport them. And last but not least, the aluminum casings will be transported down via this lift, which is actually not connected, so this is why it's empty. And then the aluminum casings will be transported to over here, will be fed into this splitter, and then actually get split onto 2 drone ports, because 378 will be necessary for our heat sinks, and the excess is once again, yeah, to be used as we like. So this is why we have to split them, and to make sure that at least 378 go to the further production for our heat sinks in the future. But as soon as this will backlog, this will even out the ratios anyways. So yeah, the Mark IV belt should be sufficient, and then in the end we don't have any purpose for the excess at the moment whatsoever, so it doesn't matter if there goes a little bit more into this drone port, it will settle itself in the future anyways. So this is the plan. Let me just connect the remaining belts. Damn, you know what? I almost forgot something. We also have a little bit of excess Petroleum Coke, which we also have to set up a drone port for, and I have the idea or the intention to transport the Petroleum Coke to our cruise ship and make the chimneys of the back run constantly. So let me add actually another drone port really quick and connect the Petroleum Coke to it. Alright, now we have a 5th drone port inserted, and you can also see that we still have the awesome sink for the excess Petroleum Coke. And this is because I want to avoid backlog in case we don't need this Petroleum Coke excess. But yeah, we still have to keep the machines running to get the plastic to have our steady output of our batteries. Now let's also connect the aluminum casings to the conveyor belts, so that this also runs down to the drone ports. And now that the production setup for this place is taken care of, I just cut the unnecessary space of the battery platform and took care of some cosmetics as well. And I must say, I like how this looks even without being a huge complex building. Originally I had the idea of building a giant tower or sky castle on the battery/drone hub platform, but not only did it turn out to be way smaller than I expected, it might even be smaller than our oil refinery platform, but I also started to like the fact that you can see what's happening everywhere at the same time. It's basically watching an open engine working and see the cylinders run and gears mesh. For now, I will keep the factory as is, but as always, feel free to share your tips and ideas for improvement either in the comments below or on Instagram. Anyways, in the end we finally finished the aluminum/battery factory, and at the very least production wise it's exactly as planned. Let's take a look at the production process overview, and actually this one is a bit more complex than the previous builds of this project. We got 1440 coppers smelted into ingots, but keep in mind that 90 of them are excess and basically unused, with 630 ingots being converted into wire and 810 waiting for further steps. We also have 1200 crude oil being refined into 800 plastic and 400 heavy oil residue. The residue then gets further refined into 1200 Petroleum Coke, where we take 720 later and have 480 as our first end product of the factory. And of course we take 1800 bauxite together with 540 water out of the ground and mix it into 2160 alumina solution. The solution then gets mingled with the 720 Petroleum Coke into 3600 alu scrap, and the byproduct of 1260 water gets fed into the alu solution input to make it the required 1800 water in total. The scrap gets smelted into 1800 alu ingots, which then get split into equal stacks. The first 900 ingots get merged with 450 copper into 675 aluminum casings, and the second 900 with 300 copper ingots into 900 Alclad Aluminum Sheets. 200 of these are factory end product as well, but 700 are still needed for the last production step, and if we take 1200 wire and 800 plastic from earlier as well, and add another 600 sulfur as the final input of this factory, we also get 400 batteries. All numbers per minute. Man, what a factory. And with that, we have completed yet another step of our project with the aluminum casing done, and the heatsinks now having all required input. We just have to put them together. Now for the next step, we will actually take a break from this agenda here in front of us, because at some point of the alu factory I was wondering what is all this struggle actually good for. And every time I'll have to look for motivation in the future, I want to look at the horizon and see the answer right in front of me. Which is why in the next episode we will build not only a nuclear mayhem headquarter, but also the 252 nuclear power plants that we want to fuel with this production network here, and that are the actual reason behind all this madness of a project. So if you like the content, like this factory or this factory, and you want to make sure that you don't miss any upcoming content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. But now I want to ask you, what do you think about this factory? Let me know, feel free to share feedback. I'm always appreciating any constructive criticism, feedbacks, tips for improvement. And thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.